Hi there, how's it going? This is Karel Sroubec channel. I've just watched a video and it's of Avo Yemeni, and he's talking about why he was prevented from coming to New Zealand last Monday for a protest that was happening on Tuesday. And he went to Melbourne Airport where he's prevented from getting on the plane. And apparently it came from New Zealand police who were looking for an excuse of why they should prevent him from flying into New Zealand. And they got their excuse. He had a bit of an assault charge against his wife or girlfriend. And they used that to prevent him from coming into the country because he's not of the right character. It's rubbish, innit? It's just crap, is what it is. Avo Yemeni was prevented from coming here because they didn't want him to cover the protest that was going to happen in Wellington on Tuesday. That's all it was. Because Avi is not of the preferred calibre of journalist, because he hasn't been through the indoctrination centres of cultural Marxism, where journalists are taught to be propagandists and they will lie for the government of Jacinda Ardern, because that's what it's like now in New Zealand. That's the way it is. And Avi would have got the news out to the rest of the world what it's like in New Zealand. Pardon me. And the government did what they did to prevent him from coming, and the rest is history. Now, a few years ago, a man who flew into New Zealand quite a few times from the Czech Republic, and his name was Karel Sroubec, K-A-R-E-L, Karel Sroubec, and he flew in quite a number of times, and until he was stopped and they found 5 kilograms of, I think it was ecstasy, 5 kilograms. I'm not sure what that's worth. But anyway, he did about 4.5 years in jail. And when he was in jail, would you believe, in New Zealand, he applied for residency and he got it under Ian Lees Galloway, the then Minister of Immigration. And that was under Jacinda Ardern. Funny that, don't you think? Now, it came out later that this Karel Sroubec, who's apparently still in New Zealand, would you believe that? He's been released last year, or it might be early this year, and he's still in New Zealand. He hasn't been deported. Why is that, I wonder? But he's allowed to stay, an international drug smuggler. And yet they prevented Avo Yemeni from coming to New Zealand. Now, a couple or 3 years ago, should I say, a story broke that this Karel Sroubec had connections to someone very, very close to Jacinda Ardern, who himself has got a very checkered history, and himself is almost always missing from action, and allegedly has got issues himself with the old, if you know what I mean. So this Karel Sroubec had connections with someone very close to Jacinda Ardern, and then when he goes to jail, and he's in jail, he gets residency in New Zealand. Surely that's got to be a first. An international drug smuggler who's been in and out of New Zealand a few times gets caught with 5 kilograms of ecstasy. I think he got 6 years in jail, did 4.5. While in jail, he gets residency. Do you think that's odd? It's very odd, isn't it? This government in New Zealand is corrupt as hell. I believe Jacinda is corrupt as hell. The whole system, everything in New Zealand is touched by corruption. The government, right at the very top, down to all political parties, opposition parties, the Maori Party, which is racist and corrupt, the judiciary, corrupted, the media corrupted, the police politicised and corrupted. How is it going to be stopped? Well, first we have to admit that it's corrupted. And how can you admit it's corrupted when you've got a media that's fully paid by Jacinda, by the taxpayer obviously? $55 million a year to lie for the government. And the media, being a powerful force as it is, and the media is second to none in New Zealand. Second to none. They've corrupted the vast majority of the population to believe everything Jacinda says. How can we change it? You can lead so many people in New Zealand to the truth. You can show them point blank, you can show them the truth, and still they wouldn't believe it. That's the power of the media, and that's the power of the government in New Zealand. We live in a totalitarian regime. Avo Yemeni, who's simply a citizen journalist wanting to cover a protest on a weekday, Tuesday, in New Zealand, gets prevented from entering New Zealand because he's of bad character, because he had a domestic once with his wife, and yet an international drug smuggler with connections to our Prime Minister, or someone very close to our Prime Minister, gets residency while he's in jail. Gets out last year, and guess what? He's still in New Zealand. Would you believe that? Make of that what you will. This is Cross the Rubicon channel. Please like, leave a comment, share this video everywhere, and subscribe. And ask yourself, do you really believe this government is kosher? Do you believe the police are kosher, the media are kosher, opposition parties are kosher? All smoke and mirrors, people. That's where we are in New Zealand. See you later.